All right. Hello, everybody. I am Antigone Zervas. I will be your Take Charge Cat ambassador for today. And we are talking about debt and why not all debt is bad. Actually, how you can use it to invest in yourself and further your financial well being. So, today we're going to go over some basic definitions of debt, good versus bad debt, go over common forms of debt, cars, mortgages, etc., and then cover some strategies on how to actually pay back debt. All right, let's get into it. So, what is debt? Bad. That is not great, but it's okay. Debt is an obligation made in terms of money when you can't really outright afford something right now. And when we look at debt, we want to differentiate good and bad. So good debt in this presentation and in general is something that you are, taking money out, you're, taking a loan because it's an investment in the long run. This can be purchasing a car, a reasonable purchase. We'll go into that later. Investing in your education, like student loans, and building value in your home, like equity, right? A mortgage. Bad debt is anything that is unnecessary and accumulates interest against you. Now, when it comes to personal finance, we have to make sure that we're aware of the good interest and the bad interest, right? When we're talking about investing and saving and investing, that's good interest, that's growth, that's compounding for you, that's building your wealth. But when we talk about credit cards or any loans or student debt, whatever, that's interest that's accumulating against you. That's hurting your ability to build wealth. So when it comes to bad debt, we're talking about credit cards or just unnecessary spending that accumulates interest against you. All right. So if you need to make any notes, you can always pause the screen. But yeah, let's move on. Transportation. Lord, I hope you guys enjoy the picture. I enjoyed searching for it. So transportation, right? Auto loans. An auto loan is just when you want to have a car, but you don't have 10 or 20 grand in savings to pay for it all right now. So you put down a certain amount and then you take the rest and get a loan. And for every month, for the duration of that loan, you pay a fixed amount. You can't pay more if you want to, but always pay the amount set at least, or else it's a whole nother thing. And you pay it off, and eventually you own it after a certain amount of time, right? Having a reliable form of transportation has many advantages. If you have a job, just responsibilities, if you want to go on a road trip, or just the freedom that a car gives you, it's awesome. But we want to make sure we're making responsible decisions. If you're going to buy a Mustang because vroom, it goes fast, or a car that breaks down all the time, right? This is not something that's a responsible and not a decision that's a form of good debt, right? The whole point of a car is get you from point A to point B reliably, right? So you don't have to use the bus, train, because that's not really, you can't really rely on that. You don't want to lose your job or whatnot. And so, yes, auto loans. So 36 to 60 months. So when you get an auto loan, it's going to take you 3 to 5 years to pay it off. Now, one thing to be aware of is that, hey, 60 months to pay it off may sound nice, but you're going to actually spend more money in the long run, right? Because it's not just the amount that you're borrowing, it's the interest that accumulates and compounds against you during that time. So the longer that you wait to pay it off, or the longer that you push it off, like a 60-month repayment plan, you're going to end up spending more money in total. Okay, let's look at an example. Let's say you get a $10,000 car loan, 8% annual interest rate, so 8% each year on top of that 10 grand, and you pay it off in 3 years. You're actually going to end up spending almost $1,300 just in interest. Right now, imagine if that was, 5 years. That would be a much higher number. So you kind of have to weigh, do I have the money to spend $400 a month, or can I only afford $250 a month and pay it off in 5 years instead of 3? That's something you have to consider. All right. Now it's time to test you. Checkpoint question. True or false? Getting a loan for a Range Rover because it's a nice car is an example of good debt. Now I'll give you guys I don't know, just pause me. I'll give you guys a couple seconds. All right, your time is up. That was very arbitrary. I apologize. Here, the answer is false, right? A, Range Rovers just break down all the time. Really expensive. Probably don't get warranty. It's just a bad car. B, you want to get something, if you're going to take out debt, right? If you're going to hurt your financial health in the now, it better be for a good reason, as especially with cars, like just getting from point A to point B. When you have a stable job and you have that emergency fund and you have these savings and you have most of your financial stuff figured out, okay, go buy the nice car. But being young, out of school, fresh out of school, you don't want to be stuck in a money hole like buying a Range Rover or any fancy car would be. All right. Okay. Next section, education. This one's very personal and near and dear to my heart because I'm in school. Oh, I'm a freshman, by the way. I forgot to mention that. Yeah. Cheers. So, student loans. Look at him. He's shackled. That's so sad. So, a student loan is an investment in your human capital, or so I've been told. The importance of education is that it increases your earning potential, right? So if you just have a high school diploma or a GED and you apply to a job, you're probably not going to make as much as someone on average who has a college degree, bachelor's, whatever. Now, when it comes to student loans, there's something you need to be aware of. There's kind of three types. We have subsidized, unsubsidized, and private. Subsidized in general means that the government is paying for a portion of the cost so that the consumer can afford it and doesn't have to pay as much. You see this with, corn, with farming, but it also happens with student loans. So when it comes to student loans, this means that while I'm in school, if I take out subsidized loans, the government pays for my interest while in school, 4 years is accumulating, and then for a grace period afterwards, like 6 months. But when it's unsubsidized, that means that interest still accumulates while I'm in school, right? So it's, there's kind of pros and cons of each. And finally, private is just when you go to a bank or an outside institution and get money loan from them. Do be wary though, they tend to charge more money or higher interest rates. All right, some considerations for school, something that I wish I considered more, but it's okay. If you're going to school, you're right, if you're taking out loans, are you going to take take subsidized, unsubsidized, or private? How much are you going to owe? How will you cover the cost? Are you going to get help from family? Are you going to get a job? Are you going to make a plan? Do you want to pay it off by a certain date? SMART goals. If you've watched that video yet on SMART goals, what degree are you going to pursue? I know there's a lot of pressure and whatnot to be so decisive and know what you want to do. But when I applied to school, I want to do political science, and now I'm going to do accounting. So, you can get the message from there. But you also want to consider, how much money are you going to really realistically make after graduation? For most schools, you can find the average medium salary. But you kind of want to figure out how long is it going to take you to pay off your loans, right? The longer it takes for you to pay off debt, the less time you have to actually start building wealth for yourself, right? Because like the picture, it's shackling the graduate, right? So you kind of want to weigh I need a stable job. I need whatever you need and your loans, and kind of figure that out for your general overall financial health. And this is not to say that you should go become a doctor or become a finance extraordinaire if you need to pay off loans. This is more to say that you need to find a mix of what you're passionate about versus, and also include what can make you a decent chunk of change, and add in some personal finance education as in these videos, and go from there, right? You don't want to be miserable doing a job you don't like just because it pays your debt. But there's some balance to strike there. So I leave that up to you. I know it's very scary questions, but student loans. And finally, housing. I hope you enjoy this picture. I wish I could be SpongeBob. All right. So mortgages. I should have like brought my guitar and started like doing some music. Wish I could add music to this video. I probably could actually. Okay. Anyway, so mortgage. A mortgage is a type of loan when you want to buy a house, but you don't have 600 or 700 grand just laying around, right? That's not really reasonable. So basically, it's a type of loan that you pay off over time, usually in payment periods of 15 to 30 years, like 15 or 30. There are some 20, but whatever. And so you basically buy a house and you live in it and pay it off a mortgage every month for the rest of your repayment plan. And again, like if you have extra money to put in, you can put it in and pay it off even earlier, but it all depends on your needs, your wants and goals, and etc. The reason that a mortgage is a great tool for building your wealth is that the more you pay off your mortgage, the more equity and value you have in your home. And also over time, no more land is going to be made, so home values increase, right? So, I don't know how many years ago, but homes are much more expensive now. And I think last year they were insane, 2021, and they fluctuate, not as crazy as the stock market, but overall home values increase. That's all you really need to know. And whenever you get a loan in general, you always want to pick something with fixed interest, right? You don't want to pay a mortgage, let's say like $1,000 a month or whatever, and have to pay, 1 month 3% interest and the next 20%. That was a part of the 2008 financial crisis, is that people were signing mortgages where they had variable interest rates, meaning that it could fluctuate with, whatever. So in general, when it comes to loans or contracts or anything that requires a signature, always read the fine print. This is something that will affect your financial health, your credit score, your credit history, and it could really mess you up for a really long time. And so, yeah, always read the fine print. But yes, equity. Equity is just the value of your home minus how much money you owe, like your debt or your mortgage, right? And as you pay off that mortgage, your equity increases. Because if you pay off your mortgage, then your house is actually worth what it's worth instead of subtracting the debt that you owe. All right. So checkpoint number 2. If your home is worth 650 grand and you owe 200 grand on your mortgage, how much equity do you have in your home? I will give you guys another arbitrary amount of time, but please pause me if you need any more time. All right, you're done. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. 450,000, right? Home value minus debt or mortgage. 650 minus 200, right? So that was an easier one, I think. I think these are all pretty straightforward. But this is Felipe. I put him on my shirt because I was bored. So say hi to Felipe. So finally, strategies, right? Just because something like debt can be a good, can be a good choice in the long run, that doesn't mean that you don't pay it off, right? So I'm going to give you guys some of the 2 main strategies to pay off debt, that being the debt snowball and avalanche. All right, so let's go into the differences. Debt snowball. So this is a strategy used when people are really struggling to stay motivated and feel like there's hope with paying debt. Debt accumulates very fast, right? If you have credit card debt, this is why we say this is bad debt. That interest rate jumps from 20 to 30, percent, 35%, and that accumulates fast, right? If you owe $100 and you haven't been making those payments, you get a penalty APR of 35%. That's now $135. And imagine that accumulating against you, right? That's pretty scary. That's pretty overwhelming, and people can feel really kind of hopeless. So the debt snowball is really good for kind of getting people on track and designing it in a way where they focus on the smaller debts first and work their way up to the biggest debts. Because if you're just paying off like a student loan debt of like 20 grand or something, that may feel unrewarding and feel like you're not really making any progress because it takes so long to pay off. So in the long run, the snowball method is you're going to spend more money, right? Because you're not dealing with the big stuff first. But it's easier to stay motivated, which depending on your situation may be better for you. Now the avalanche is the opposite. I hope you guys like my little emojis here. I like them. So basically you pay off the highest debts first and you save more money in the long run, but it's very hard to stay motivated and, depends. If you want more into this, you can look up Dave Ramsey. He's a super, anti-debt. He gives a lot of great advice for how to get out of the money hole. And there's more information at the end of the slideshow for some resources. All right, good. Give me a thumbs up. I can't see you, but give me a thumbs up. All right, checkpoints. Which strategy is a faster way to pay off debt? I'll give you guys another arbitrary amount of time. All right. Your time's up. The answer is dun, dun, avalanche, right? Because it focuses on the, that's the highest interest rates. It's just gonna, chip it down more. Is that good? All right, solid. All right, final thoughts. I know I've been talking for so long. Final thoughts. Debt is a tool, right? Think of debt as like a like a double-edged sword, right? It can really hurt you, or it could hurt you a little bit, but then what doesn't kill you make you stronger. I'm not sure where I was going with that. That is a tool that you can use to invest in yourself, whether it's a car for, getting to and from work, whether it's student loans to increase your earning potential or what have you, or, mortgage to build overall net worth and equity. Debt is a tool you can use to invest in yourself. Avoid bad debt like credit cards or any unnecessary spending that accumulates interest against you. Always be aware and proactive. Always read the fine print. This is a contract. This is something that can really affect you in your credit history for a long time. So always be aware and proactive. Always look for the best deal, right? Don't go for something with a high interest rate if you can always get it lower. And finally, when you have debt, make a plan and stick to it. It's okay if you, fall off the wagon and you mess up, but don't get stuck in the whole guilt, little guilt trap. Just get right back on it. All right. So that concludes my presentation. Additional resources, auto loan calculator. You can just look them up too. Student loan, mortgage, articles. Again, Dave Ramsey is a really good source for how to pay off debt. My name is Antigone Zervas. I'm your Take Charge Cats ambassador for why debt isn't all that bad. And I hope you have a lovely day.